Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. December the 1st, the last month of who knows what kind of calendar anymore, because everything has been absolutely twisted, everything is a lie. And today I want to approach the topic of those peace talks between Russia and Ukraine from a different angle. Because I look at things a little differently, and I'm sure that a lot of people that you are watching or following, they are probably not addressing this aspect that I am trying to present to you. But, everyone has a different perception of the events and the reality. And this is something that I decided to show you to invite you to do your own research as well, and to use your critical thinking and to use your own discernment. No matter what people say, no matter what's anyone's opinion, listen to your own gut and trust your own intuition. So what I'm talking about? Well, let's look into three people that are very deeply involved into those peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. Like I said before, I repeat it again, the outcome has already been decided probably a long time ago. But nevertheless, some people believe that no, there is a good side and there is a bad side, and we have to pick up the side. So we're going to look into Jared Kushner, why he is so present at those negotiations. Many of you know who he is. He is the son-in-law of President Trump. He is married to Ivanka Trump. Why he's so deeply involved in it, and why he is now, as I am recording this video, maybe he already landed in Moscow, maybe he's still on his way to Moscow, with Steve Witkoff. Those two people we're going to look into. Jared Kushner much deeper than Steve Witkoff, but there will be info about him as well. I will repeat some information that I already told you before. But we're also going to look into Kirill Dmitriev, who is the special presidential envoy on foreign investment and economic cooperation. Very interesting persona that I came across, and many of you know. Probably you already have your opinion about him. I haven't had any, and at this point I am still filming one, but there is a lot of question marks about this person, and I will dive into his story a little bit today. So without any further ado, let's start with this video. I will be mentioning certain types of people or cults, I would say, because it's a cult. It's not really a religion for me, that is not welcomed on many platforms to be mentioned. So I appreciate if you hit the thumbs up and subscribe and leave the comments. So let's look at the first video. A little bit intro to this current situation.
Well, first of all, Rustam, and to all of you that are here, it's great to be back with you again. I think we continue this very important work, building off what's been achieved, not just in Geneva, the progress we made there, but the progress throughout the week as we've been communicating. The end goal is obviously not just the end of the war. Obviously, that's essential and fundamental. We want to see the end of the killing and the death and the suffering, and I'm sure the Ukrainian side, I know they do as well. They want peace, but it's also about securing an end to the war that leaves Ukraine sovereign and independent and with an opportunity at real prosperity. So this is not just about ending a war. This is about ending a war in a way that creates a mechanism and a way forward that will allow them to be independent and sovereign, never have another war again, and create tremendous prosperity for its people. Not just rebuild the country, but to enter an era of extraordinary economic progress. It's a country, Ukraine has tremendous economic potential. Ukraine has tremendous opportunity for true prosperity. Obviously, you can't do that in the middle of a war like this, but ending the war alone won't achieve that. So this is not just about peace deals. It's about creating a pathway forward that leaves Ukraine sovereign, independent, and prosperous. And so we expect to make even more progress today. And And we're grateful that you would travel all the way here to Florida. We apologize for the rain. It's not supposed to be raining, but there's only certain things we can control. So thank you and welcome to you.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to start with a gratitude to American people, American leadership, President Trump's initiative for the peace. We've been working with the U.S. for the last 10 months, and we've been meeting and had a great progress. I'm thankful to President Trump's super team that is supporting us. We are discussing about the future of Ukraine, about the security of Ukraine, about no repetition of aggression of Ukraine, about prosperity of Ukraine, about how to rebuild Ukraine. And we're thankful for the efforts of United States and its team to helping us. U.S. is hearing us, U.S. is supporting us, U.S. is walking beside us. And we're thankful for all what has been done until today. And we're looking forward to have a successful, productive meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you very
All right, so first, before I close this video, I just want to show you a few things. And again, I want to say that people often look just at the packaging. They don't read the energy, right? A lot of people do read the energy because everything is energy, absolutely everything, including the conflicts are about energy too. Not even mentioning draining people from their energy, from the humankind energy. So we're gonna look into the comments under this video. So we have Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, Marco Rubio. Today we're gonna focus on those two. Let's read the comments from people. Why is Kushner in there? Why is Jared Kushner involved? Is this to discuss the best way to implement treachery? What in the Satan's hell is Jared Kushner doing there? Jared is back for more payoffs. I guess 3+ billion was not enough, said. There is not a single person in that room that can be trusted, and not a word of introduction was honest. Why the fuck, I'm just reading a comment, why the fuck is Kushner involved in anything to do with our government? Witkoff and Kushner look like they don't belong there. Very awkward. Why is Kushner there? Is he a government employee? So many of you can say, well, this is Forbes, breaking news, this is Forbes, Forbes, this is like propaganda, this and that. No, well, yes, it is. Maybe it is, as is Wall Street Journal and many other publications. However, this is a very good point. Why Kushner is there? So let's go to this article. Again, I want to say, I know this, guys, okay? There is propaganda on every side, and both sides present some truth and some lies, but it's very twisted. So sometimes people cannot decide what is the right thing and what is the wrong thing. And I know this is not a source to trust, but it points at something interesting. Just for a moment, maybe a little bit from the title of this garbage journal, because it's from Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal had put out an article, I think 2 days ago, Make Money Not War, or how the US and Russia want to make money on peace. The Wall Street Journal, again, this is not some place I respect, but there is, again, like I say, a little bit truth. So the Wall Street Journal, citing numerous sources, had determined that the discussions between the American and Russian negotiators during their meetings, especially during the last meeting in Miami, so the one that I just showed you the video, in October, the previous one, went far beyond the Russia-Ukraine war. And they mainly concerned Russian-American businesses. According to the Wall Street Journal, a report titled Make Money Not War, President Donald Trump's chief envoy, Steve Witkoff, and son-in-law, Jared Kushner, met with Putin's negotiator, Kirill Dmitriev, to work out a peace deal that would free up hundreds of billions of dollars frozen in Europe. So you know the story, probably you do already. This was the plan presented by Kirill Dmitriev, who pushed for a plan under which American companies would use about $300 billion of Russian central bank assets frozen in Europe for US-Russian investment projects and the reconstruction of Ukraine under US leadership. American and Russian companies could join forces to exploit the vast mineral wealth of the Arctic. Here we go, Arctic now. Dmitriev has argued for months, important part here, that there are no limits to the achievements of the two eternal adversaries, their space industries, which competed with each other during the Cold War. Just side note from me here, Cold War, another scam, another story that was pushed on the people to create fear, to create to create fear, to terrify people, okay? So they can suck your energy. Cold War, another story. Could even organize a joint mission to Mars with Elon Musk SpaceX. So what did I tell you lately? That Elon Musk is absolutely going to implement his technology in Russia in the near future. Absolutely, no question there. But here is the part I want to read. Discreet negotiations with Russia, they say. The Wall Street Journal also describes the threat of close friends of Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., who conduct discreet business negotiations with Russian companies focusing on profits from a potential peace in Ukraine. Gentry, I don't know, that's how you say, Gentry Beach, or Gentry Beach, a friend of Trump Jr. from his college days and a donor to his father's campaign, is negotiating a 9.9% stake in the Arctic LNG project with Novatek, that is Russia's second largest gas producer, partly owned by oligarch Gennady Timchenko. The condition would be the lifting of US and British sanctions, and Beach emphasizes the benefits for the US energy sector through his company America First Global. He also claims that he does not work directly with Steve Witkoff, but appreciates his peace efforts. And one more person, Stephen Lynch, a Miami investor who also supports the current president's campaign, pays $600,000. Oh, 600,000 only, not even a million. Okay. To lobbyists, including Chess McDowell, a friend of Trump's Jr., for a Treasury Department license to buy the sabotaged Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline from a Russian state-owned company. Previously, it obtained a license to take over the Swiss subsidiary of Sberbank. He contacted Witkoff about the meeting. So Sberbank, I already made a video about the largest Russian bank. But that's just Wall Street Journal, so some things to take with a grain of salt. However, there are a few things that you cannot take with a grain of salt. And now let's dive into this. And here we go again, returning to the same underlining foundation that unites most of those people. Maybe not this Russian person, but Russian gentleman, Kirill Dmitriev, has also some connection very strong connection to Harvard University, that in a way also connects us to the same, and that is Chabad Lubavitch. I know you can you stop talking about it? Well, it looks like we cannot, because let's look first into this. Let's start with the basic foundation. And this is Steve Witkoff. One more time, a reminder, because I talked about this before. Steve Witkoff is real estate developer and US special envoy. Steve Witkoff has a personal connection to Chabad Lubavitch, with reports indicating he attends their services, and his son puts on tefillin. Tefillin is, I think, this, you will see, I have a picture there of this black tape you put around your arm, and then let's not forget, the black cube on the top of your forehead, where's the third eye almost. Key details regarding Steve Witkoff's relationship with Chabad Lubavitch. Personal attendance in October 2025, so just this year, Witkoff prayed and said the Yizkor memorial prayer for his late son at the Chabad house in Miami Beach during Yom Kippur services. His son's involvement, his son, Zach Witkoff, has been pictured putting on tefillin, I'm sorry if I might pronounce this, with the Chabad representative, and was gifted a book on making peace, based on the teachings of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, everyone, the Messiah. This was the Messiah who's no longer here in physical form, unless his spirit went to another person, before the real Messiah will return. And philanthropy and support. Witkoff has been noted as a significant Jewish donor and has spoken at events that include Chabad involvement. One source notes his family was on a gala committee for a local Chabad house. So let's look into his son putting this thing on his arm. I think you can see it. Let me double check. Okay, you cannot see it because I shared that screen. Okay, so let me take you now to his son putting this black tape that I also showed you before in other videos. This is Zach Witkoff, and this thing around his arm, and then they have to put this black cube on the forehead. So this is Chabad Lubavitch, everyone, just so you know. Now, let me take you to Jared Kushner, because this is the same foundation, Chabad Lubavitch. Again, I'm repeating this because I told you this already, but I had a teacher at school when I was learning. One second, let me find this. When I was learning English, he used to say this in Latin, repetitio, and I'm not sure if I say it correctly, repetitio e mater studiorum. So repetition is a mother of study, of learning. So let's look into Jared Kushner, an Orthodox Jew and a former White House senior advisor who has a long-standing and very close relationship with I added very because it's not here, but it's very close relationship with the Chabad Lubavitch movement, stemming from his college years, and we're going to go into Harvard later, and continuing through his political career and philanthropic activities. Key connections. Here we go. Harvard University. As a student at Harvard, Kushner was actively involved with the campus Chabad house, led by Rabbi Hirshi Zarhi. He was a significant supporter, helping to galvanize his social circle to contribute to the center and organizing alumni events. Donations. The Charles and Cyril Kushner Family Foundation, on whose board Jared has sat, has donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to Chabad institutions over the years, including the Harvard Chabad Center, Chabad centers in other states, and the Ohel Visitor Center at the grave of the Lubavitcher Rebbe in Queens, New York. So you remember the headquarters in Brooklyn, I think it was. I was showing you. This is in Queens. I think this was in Brooklyn, I think, where they found those tunnels. This is the same Chabad Lubavitch I'm talking about. The tunnels where they were doing some nefarious things to children, right? And we're going to look into this center, Ohel Visitor Center, where this previous Messiah has a grave. And personal practice and proximity. When Kushner and his wife Ivanka Trump moved to Washington, D.C. for their White House roles, this is during the first Trump's administration, they chose a home in the Kalorama neighborhood that was a short walk from the local Chabad synagogue, known as the Schul, I don't know how to say, Schul, to facilitate observing Shabbat. Political engagement, the Chabad movement, DC Rabbi Levi Shmetov has served as a spiritual guide for the couple, and Trump hosted a meeting with the Chabad rabbinical delegation in the Oval Office. The movement has also been noted for its ability to build connections that intersect with business and politics, including during the Trump administration. And recent philanthropy. In November 2024, Jared Kushner and Ivanka pledged $1 million to the Chabad of the United Arab Emirates. Yes, it's also there. I showed you this already. In memory of the slain emissary Rabbi Zvi Kogan. His brother, Joshua Kushner, and his wife, Carly Close, matched the donation, bringing the total commitment to $2 million. The Kushners' relationship with Chabad is a blend of personal religious observance, family history, and philanthropic support that has been a consistent part of their public and private lives. So we have some news from this. Now let's go to the quick moment when they are visiting. Let me just find it. When they are visiting that place where the Messiah was, let me see if I have it here. It's not. Okay, so let's go to Harvard. Let's go to Harvard first. Here is Jared Kushner. This is older video, but trust me, it will explain a lot of connections. Let's go and listen.
It is with great pleasure that I welcome you all to help celebrate the dedication of our new Chabad Center. As can be seen by the wonderful turnout here today, the impact that the Zarqi family has had both on the Harvard and Cambridge communities over the past years is nothing short of astounding. I first met Rabbi Zarqi while visiting Harvard during my pre-Frosh weekend. Within minutes, I was offered a warm meal and the opportunity to meet many interesting people from throughout the Harvard community and beyond. Walking up to the second floor of a two-family house and seeing 40 people squeezed around a table barely large enough to fit 25, I remember the excitement of thinking that people do not often sacrifice comfort to this extent unless the food is truly spectacular. While the meal was certainly of the utmost quality, as Elke's cooking usually is, it did not take long to realize what really drew people to the Zarqi home. Hearing each guest stand to introduce him or herself and share a brief personal thought with the table made me feel the warmth and sense of community that is truly needed in the Jewish community. The fact that I identify myself as an Orthodox Jew and that the person sitting next to me was a Reformed Jew who told me that he had not been to a Friday night meal in over 2 years did not make a difference. We both ate and enjoyed the Zarqi's hospitality with the same comfort. Those who have experienced the Friday night dinner at Chabad can attest to the warmth and ease with which so many strangers come together to feel part of a larger family. However, Friday night dinners are but a small portion of the many great things the Harvard Chabad does to affect the lives of many Jews. Whether it be needing a mezuzah for a dorm room, a place to light Hanukkah candles, or having a question on any aspect of Judaism, one can always feel comfortable going to Rabbi Zarqi for help. Going away to college or graduate school can be a time when young adults begin to challenge the teachings of their past while setting the course for their futures. Having a place where one knows they can turn for help in times of such uncertainty is an invaluable resource. Rabbi Zarqi's approach is to never be one who forces others to think or look at a certain thing in a dictated way. Rather, as an aid, through discussion and advice, people are encouraged to find personal significance and meaning in whatever it is that one is looking for. We gather here now to thank our many benefactors and faculty advisors who have made Chabad here at Harvard as successful as it has been. However, growing Chabad from a small one-bedroom apartment in central Cambridge to now having a beautiful center on the prime Harvard campus real estate can only be attributed to the vision and perseverance of Rabbi Zarqi. Running the
All right, so I think we had enough of this, of him talking. Now let's go to a very important video also about him, his father, who, by the way, I don't know if you know, his father now is the ambassador to the US in France, I think. So let's go to this video. Many things you already know, because this is several years old. There's a lot to update, but some things already happened, and this video will just remind us of those things. Here is again about Jared Kushner and his family. It's interesting how he got into the Trump's family, right? But I will give you my few cents after we play this video. Let's take a listen.
Kushner is a man of influence. He inherited a successful real estate company from his father Charles Kushner, who actually served a prison sentence for illegal campaign contributions, tax evasion, and witness tampering. He currently stands as senior advisor to his father-in-law, Donald J. Trump. Why would Trump entrust such a pivotal role to a man in his 30s? Is he perhaps what some might call a genius? Or is he tied by blood and faith to the very deepest machinations of the US-Israeli-Saudi axis of evil? He is, of course, of the tribe, enthusiastically so. His father was good friends with Netanyahu. Netanyahu even slept in Jared's bed upon a visit to the Kushner family. Jared keeps the struggles of his people close to his heart, his grandparents being survivors of the alleged mass murder of Jews by the Third Reich. Brokering peace in the Middle East is his main diplomatic concern, but to anyone with eyes to see, it is a singularly Jewish concern. Moving the US Embassy to Jerusalem was the beginning of his ambitious peace plans, the end result being aimed toward a single-state solution, that state being Greater Israel. He has close ties to unhinged Jewish sects such as Chabad Lubavitch. Chabad Lubavitch is an organization which purports to serve Jewish interests, but silently works to bring around the Jewish Moshiach, or Messiah. But what political power did they have? Well, see for yourself.
ברכה והברכה. שמע, ישראל צריך מגיזם. ברכה והצלחה. תפלאי ולתשיר. באתי לבקש את זה. בכל העניינים. בזמן שישראל מלאחרונה נתצו כמה עניינים. פתחו כמה. מה שלא יאות, וגם מצו שעדיין משאיר ליבו. אז הייתה משהו במה ידיעתו. ועושים. הכנראה שהיא מספיק, כאילו שהיום כבר כמה שעות בגיל עדיין ליבו, אבל יש עוד כמה שעות, אבל יש להשתדל גם היום, בבשורות טובות. יש שמחה וטוב לראות. כדי שחסידים מקפידים שכל מנוי ונצא שמחה.
Beholden is Netanyahu. Beholden is Jared Kushner. Beholden, unwittingly, are the American people. These Chabad figures view the Trump administration as nothing more than a means to an end. That end being the construction of the Third Temple in Jerusalem, supposed marker of the end times, the beginning of the Messianic age. Jared Kushner is.
All right, so a lot of this information I have been presenting to you already. I'm repeating this one more time, connecting those people to the core of what I believe is taking place. Like I said to you, this is all agreed behind the scenes, and people are being played. We are literally witnessing Yalta 2.0 at this moment, and the same type of bloodlines are running the show. And not even the ones that you see, that those that are not seen to the public, that are above them, all of them, pulling the strings, because they are not sovereign. None of those people is sovereign. That's the thing. They might believe they are, or they might pretend they are. Let's go to Harvard again, because Harvard is very important here. Let me find this video. One second, everyone, just bear with me. I have many videos here for you today. Okay, let me just prepare it before I open so you don't have the commercials. Now, why it's important is because, as many of you know, the universities, especially in the United States, have been prepared for certain type of activities, or they had some influences in them, right? For example, like Harvard. So here we're gonna hear from another Chabad Lubavitch, I don't know if I should say believer, or maybe he was the faculty advisor, Professor Alan Dershowitz, very, very deeply involved in Chabad Lubavitch. Let's take a listen to what he had to say many years ago, but the story continues. Nothing has changed. This just Harvard and other universities are progressing with this agenda. Here is the video. Sorry, guys, I got really confused here. This is my fault. So just bear with me. Okay, it's right here. Okay, so just let me change it. Sorry for that. I have so many videos prepared. So just one moment, I will find the right one. Let's look. I think I have pretty patient audience, so here we go. This is the right video. Now let me mute myself and we take a listen.
Rabbi Zarki, what can I say about Rabbi Zarki? He's my Rebbe. Many years ago, he came to Harvard and he said, I have an idea. I want to bring Chabad to Harvard. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. And I said, not only are you not crazy, this is a revolution. I want to be behind you. I want to be the first faculty advisor. I want to support you. I want to be with you. And I would say no more significant event has occurred in the last 25 years on college campuses in respect to Jewish students than the building of Chabad at every university in the United States and in Europe, virtually every single one today, as a Chabad house, thanks to Hershey. Why is it so important? Because even Hillels are moving sometimes away from Israel. There's open Hillels, there's closed Hillels, there's pro-Israel Hillels, there's not so pro-Israel Hillels, there's J Street, there's, you know it. But one thing about Chabad, it is not only intellectually supportive of Israel, but it's neshama, its heart, and its soul. And it turns kids, Jewish kids, half Jewish kids, non-Jewish kids, because Chabad doesn't judge. I remember sitting at Chabad with Jared Kushner one night, and a guy walked in, and he had tattoos and nose rings, and he had just parked his motorcycle outside, and after Shabbat, he was going to go back on his motorcycle. No judgment. No, we don't accept you. You want to come here? You feel your neshama needs a little bit of renewal? You are welcome. All Jews are family at Chabad. It is absolutely remarkable. I have urged the Harvard Business School to do a case study on Chabad. I don't know any organization, not McDonald's, not any organization that franchises things all over the country. They're kids. How old were you when you came to Harvard? You were a kid. Your Mendel was 3 or 4. I remember Elke was this, beautiful young teenager, virtually. And they give him no money, or they give him a couple $100, and they say, "You're on your own." And these kids are amazing. First, Chabad has the ability to pick the most charismatic, the nicest people as shluchim, and they just mesmerize and attract people. So I just have so many good things to say about Chabad on campus and Chabad generally.
Yes, so like he said, it's a revolution, and Chabad is very, very welcoming and picks up the most impressive individuals. Let's not forget everyone. Let's see if I have anything open here. Just one moment.
I just have one.
Let me see. Okay, here we go. Let's not forget this moment. Let's not forget this moment. I just want to remind you again. This is the Jewish Museum and Tolerance Center. Here is Chabad Lubavitch, no longer with us, Rabbi, right? The Rebbe, Schneerson. Here is President Putin. This is from President of Russia, official website from 2013. And if you think that things has changed, the personal, so-called personal Rabbi Lazar, designated for Russia, I'm reminding you again, very, very present in Russia and very, very close to Putin. So now let's take a listen to Candace Owens about Jared Kushner and Harvard.
And according to him in his research, he writes, quote, New Jersey real estate developer Charles Kushner, that's Jared's father, we're going to talk about him in a second, had pledged $2.5 million to Harvard University in 1998, before, not long before, his son Jared was admitted to the prestigious Ivy League school. At the time, Harvard accepted about 1 of every 9 applicants, he writes. And according to him in his research, he writes, quote, New Jersey real estate developer Charles Kushner, that's Jared's father, we're going to talk about him in a second, had pledged.
So now you might be wondering, Anya, why you keep on talking about this Harvard University so much? Well, just briefly, because we have to go to another interview in a moment, but just briefly. Let's look into not always telling the truth, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper into Kirill Dmitriev, who represents Russia at those peace talks because he's the special presidential envoy on foreign investments and economic cooperation. Let's just scroll down because we're going to go through him later on in more details. We're going to read this. Actually, the education right here. He attended the Harvard Business School. And you might say, well, it's just a coincidence, right? I don't know. Well, I don't know. I don't believe in coincidences. This is a very interesting persona that has a lot of question marks, in my opinion, above his head. So let's go to this interview. He will respond to a question about what is his view on the recent Israel-Palestine peace. And he will have few words to say about Jared Kushner from his perspective. So let's take a listen.
What's your view on the peace agreement in the Middle East with Palestinian and Israel?
Yeah, I think, by the way, Steven Witkoff, Jared Kushner, Marco Rubio, President Trump team did something nobody believed they would do. And I think that, and we will have to see how long this holds.
Sure.
But the fact that, you had hostages come back, the fact that Hamas seems to be holding on to this agreement is really a historic accomplishment.
Yes.
And it was done, many people believe by lots of pressuring, but in reality, it was done by listening to understanding concerns of each party. And by the way, Jared Kushner was one of the people who started this even in 2017-18, when he started working on Abraham Accords, when he started to get this idea of how do we get Israel work better with Arab nations, and nobody believed he would be able to do it. People would totally think it doesn't work, but they proved the result. So I think President Putin, by the way, yesterday he, basically expressed his, I would say, a very positive view of Gaza peace plans that President Trump has done. So once again, we believe it's a huge accomplishment by Trump team.
So it's interesting you talk about implementation, because one of the things that Trump did here that was unique is he put a Muslim face on the deal by giving it over to Erdogan of Turkey, and also by holding the meetings in Egypt with al-Sisi, the Egyptian president.
You can watch this entire interview. I will put the link below in the description box. I want to just focus on this specific part in which he was describing how important Jared Kushner was in this current situation as far as Israel and Palestine is at this moment. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I am just presenting to you some videos, and I hope you will really use your own critical thinking. It takes some time to do the research, and it also takes an open mind to look at things and not believe what we are presented with. Because at the end of the day, I will say it again, I question absolutely everyone. And I have already awakened to aspects of what's going on as far as the Russian government goes that I was not aware of. So let's look into this person for a moment. And then I'm going to take you to a very, very interesting video from a different perspective. Let's look into Kirill Dmitriev. Let's read about him from the most of the time lying Wikipedia. But some things you cannot lie if they actually happen. So he was born in 1975 in Soviet Ukraine, but now he is a Russian businessman who is the CEO of the Russian Direct Investment Fund, RDIF, and at least $10 billion sovereign wealth fund created by the Russian government to co-invest in the Russian economy. So born in Soviet Ukraine, I think in Kiev actually, but I'm not sure. We get there to those details. He lived in the United States between the ages of 14 and 25, where he studied at Stanford University and Harvard Business School. Upon moving to Russia in 2000, so right when Putin took over, he worked for various companies before being chosen by Russian leader Vladimir Putin to head the previous mentioned direct investment fund, the Russian Direct Investment Fund. Dmitriev has long-standing connections to Vladimir Putin's family, and we will get to that connections as well. In February 2022, both Kirill Dmitriev and RDIF were sanctioned by the United States Treasury following the Russian invasion of Ukraine. In the sanction recital, the Office of Foreign Assets Control labeled RDIF as a slush fund for Vladimir Putin and as emblematic of Russia's broader kleptocracy. Okay. So sanctions, of course, we know didn't really work, but he now is the special presidential envoy on foreign investment and economic cooperation. On 23rd February this year, he became that. And he was picked by Putin to be a negotiator with the Donald Trump administration and negotiating an end to the Russia-Ukraine war. During the negotiations, Dmitriev emphasized business opportunities in Russia for US investors. We're not going to go into his early life. It will be later on. Career. Recruited by McKinsey & Company after graduating from Harvard, Dmitriev spent the next 2 years on various projects at the consultancy Los Angeles, Moscow, and Prague offices, where he caught the eye of influential Russian businessmen. We're going to go into this as well. In 1999, Dmitriev transitioned to Goldman Sachs as an investment banker, but resigned from the bank less than a year into his employment. Shortly thereafter, in 2000, Dmitriev returned to Moscow. He was employed by the US-Russia Investment Fund, while also working at the private equity for Delta Private Equity Partners from 2002 to 2007. In 2004, Dmitriev worked on the sale of Delta Bank to General Electric, and in 2005, Delta Credit Bank to Société Générale. So, I'm not going to read more of this. Okay, actually, this is good. COVID-19 response. Let's read this. In 2020, Dmitriev focused, that's RDIF, on combating the novel coronavirus infection through investing in testing drugs and vaccines. So he made some money on it, right? Looks like. In March 2020, RDIF invested in the production of the unique Russian-Japanese testing system to detect COVID-19 within 30 minutes. More than 30 million testing kits were sold by RDIF and its partners abroad. And, you know, like they put in your nose, right? The stuff is being used in all major airports of Moscow, Sheremetyevo, Domodiedovo, and Vnukovo. And in March 2020, RDIF and Russian pharmaceutical company Kemrar Group agreed to create a JV aimed at the production of, I don't know those names, favipiravir-based drug, I'm not going to pronounce it, guys, which was proven to be effective by the phase 3. So this is, I think, like a Sputnik story here. He has been critical of British COVID-19 vaccine. Okay. But the partnership between RDIF, Gamaleya Institute, and AstraZeneca was created in December 2020. In February 2021, health officials in Azerbaijan granted approval for a clinical trial in the country on combining Russia's Sputnik V vaccine with the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 shots in adults 18 years and older. So those of you who didn't do the research and you don't know what those vaccines had inside them, okay, what kind of technology has been injected into people's blood, then do your research, because I'm not going to repeat this again. I created a video about it. They track you already, okay? You've been injected, you got the bad one. If you got placebo, then congrats. In January 2017, Dmitriev met with Eric Prince, the founder of the private military company Blackwater, George Nader, and the UAE Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan in the Seychelles. The meeting, okay. So Goldman Sachs and Russia. So we have this. Now, this is from Wikipedia. Why I'm talking about all of this, guys, is because this man's story, it has like a lot of I would say connections to the West, very close, and it looks like, to me, you might think that I am because I just see the underlining of it, the closeness of Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff well, Steve Witkoff was doing those negotiations for some time, right? But okay, he's a Chabad Lubavitch believer. But Jared Kushner joined in right now. I am going back again to the Khazaria 2.0, New Jerusalem, New Great Israel project, because this is about now putting this into fruition, and every country that is at this table plays a role in creating it. United States, Ukraine, and Russia. Those three countries are structuring this new Great Israel, or New Jerusalem, or however they're going to call it. I have no idea. That means the land, the investments, the technology, the migration of people, all of it. And I don't think that the conflict will be over. Actually, I think we're going to have continuation of the conflict, just in a different way and on multiple fronts. Before I go into a video that I will be reading to you the translation of it, because it's originally in Russian, and it's about this person, Dmitriev, that I just read you about. I want to say a few things about what I think might happen in Ukraine now. I think a lot of people in Ukraine will not like the results of that peace negotiations. So there is a chance, just in my opinion, that some people might protest, and there might be some kind of, like, I would say, if they don't suppress it, they will try like a civil war within the country. Because for so many years, how many years now, people have been thrown like a meat to the meat grinder. Families have been destroyed. People had to run away. And the same is from the Russian side. How many Russian people lost their lives, right, in this conflict? Let's not forget that. So I don't think this is over. I think the globalists will use the puppets they put in the governments to escalate this, to put the European countries into conflict. So then Russia can control some part of the European side of Europe, and then United States can control another part of the European continent. But all of those people, in my opinion, are serving the same masters. Just if you don't know, let's look into this, guys. Do you know who is this? It's Boris Johnson at Chabad Lubavitch. Do you see this? And what he has on his head? It's Boris Johnson, everyone. Boris Johnson, everyone. Okay. So we know most of them are in this. I'm not surprised. Now let's go to this video. Again, take everything with a grain of salt. I am open to listen to different sides so I can come to my own opinion. This will be a little bit challenge for me, but I'm going to play this video in almost full length and read to you the subtitles because it's in English and the original version is in Russian. This video is presenting the life story of Kirill Dmitriev. Okay, so the person that I just brought to your attention. And again, this is probably someone who has this channel who is very much anti-Putin. My intention here is not to be anti-Putin. My intention here, I already made many videos about what I think at this moment about Putin, but my intention here is to give you some information about Kirill Dmitriev that, you know, maybe some of it is actually legit and is true. So let's take a look at it. I will be reading this to you. It will be playing and I will be stopping, okay? Because it's a challenge, but it's in Russian. So let's see. Official still a teenager, leaves for America. He graduates from elite universities there, becomes a successful financier, and then returns to his homeland. Here, you know, this a little sarcastic sometimes, so bear in mind. Here, our hero, that means Kirill Dmitriev, finds himself in the entourage of, you know, he calls Putin sinister dictator. I don't, but all right. But let's just read what he says, and helps him in the implementation of his criminal plans. With the help of remaining connections in the West and the knowledge acquired there, it sounds like the plot of mediocre spy thriller about another KGB, Lubyanka, and CIA. However, this plot is the real-life story of Kirill Dmitriev, one of the most interesting and closed characters in Vladimir Putin's entourage. In early 2025, this is not very public figure. So in 2025, this not very public figure came under the close attention of the world press, formally having nothing to do with diplomacy. Dmitriev not only participated in negotiations with Americans about ending the war in Ukraine, but as could be understood from the reports, acted as the organizer of these negotiations on the part of Russians. Who is this man whose biography is full of mysteries and blank spots? Where did he get his connections in the ruling elites of different countries? Is it possible should he be considered a figure from Vladimir Putin's inner circle? And is it true that he still remains a citizen of Ukraine? So you will have some parts of this video like this, but we're going to go through all this video. So Kirill Dmitriev is very young by standards of Russian politics. He has not yet turned 5 years old. He was born on April 12, 1975. Both his place of birth, Kiev, is what was then Soviet Ukraine, and the family into which he was born are noteworthy. The authors of most publications dedicated to Dmitriev, if they mention his father, Alexander Petrovich Dmitriev, born in 1947, briefly characterize him, this is about father now, as simply a biologist. This is not entirely true. The fact is that by the end of Soviet era, Dmitriev, the father, headed one of the laboratories of the Institute of Cell Biology and Genetic Engineering under the auspices of Academy of Science of Ukraine. And he was not only a member of the Communist Party, but also had 6 years behind him in the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Ukraine, where he headed up a sector of natural and technical sciences. By the way, Alexander Petrovich, so the father, in all likelihood, continues to live and work in Ukraine. His last publication dates back to 2024. 2 years ago, already during this was not a full-scale invasion, okay, but he says, full-scale during the war, colleagues congratulated Dmitriev on his 75th birthday. However, it is difficult to find out about the scientist's current status from sources as reported by Ukrainian media. He himself avoids communicating with the press and at his official place of work, at the Institute of Cell Biology and Genetic Engineering, they refuse to answer many questions, citing the classified status of Alexander Pietrovich's work. It is absolutely certain that at the time of the collapse of the USSR, the Dmitriev family did not belong to the ranks of ordinary residents of Kiev. This is possible and explains an important step in the development of the very young Kirill. He moved to America to study. Now we're going to Kirill Dmitriev, okay? To study as a teenager. It is not entirely clear when exactly this happened. In 2022, in the preamble to Dmitriev's first throughout interview, the Russian newspaper Vedomosti indicated an uncertain time. In the early 90s, Vedomosti authors explained the young man's achievement by the fact that he successfully fell under the so-called civil diplomacy program launched by the United States in Kiev. Kirill met a certain American family that had moved to Ukraine. A very interesting story, huh? They allegedly noticed the smart guy and helped him. Again, this could be just conspiracy, right? There is also an alternative version, for example, supported by the authors of the English and Russian Wikipedia, which dates Kirill's move to America to the year 1989, that is to the time when the Soviet Union had not yet collapsed, and the future Putin's, no, he calls him son, but Putin's, close to Putin, was only 14 years old. It is said that the son of Kiev scientists was then lucky enough to become one of the first Soviet youths to be included in the international exchange program. However, when we began to check the sources cited by Wikipedia, nothing was said about 1989. Apparently, this is still a mistake or someone's invention. In the early 1990s, the exact year is again not mentioned anywhere. Kirill Dmitriev graduated from the Californian THL College. This is not just a college, but a prestigious institution with a special status. After 2 years of study, you can transfer to the third year of another university, and Dmitriev used this option by entering Stanford University, one of the most prestigious universities in the United States. The now adult Dmitriev explained it this way. Achievements: 2 years I studied in college and then received a full scholarship to pay for tuition in Stanford. I had no relatives there. I turned out to be one of the few foreign students who received a full scholarship for the entire period. So just very lucky, very lucky. Of study. It sounds like a fairy tale. Just study well and you will get into a prestigious university abroad. Well, it might happen, right, guys? Just my comment here, but all of this is very interesting story because now he is advising, Putin, and he is sitting at the table with Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff and deciding about the future of Ukraine. But Dmitriev's academic abilities are really difficult to dispute. In 1996, he graduated from Stanford with a bachelor's degree in economics. 4 years later, the Kiev native completed his master's degree at Harvard Business School, and graduated with the special title of the Baker. Is it Baker? I don't know. This translation says is awkward. Scholar. This means that he entered the top 5% of his graduating class in terms of academic performance over the entire period of study. Dmitriev successfully applied his academic knowledge and practice. At the same time, he worked at Goldman Sachs Bank and the consulting company McKinsey & Company. This is a rather interesting point that I would like to draw your attention to. Before the war, representatives of Putin's elites, various critics, often and usually justifiably, reproach them for essentially working in Russia on a rational basis, saying they earn money through sales. The country's resources are being spent, allegedly not in the visible West, where children live and study. Dmitriev's career, as we see, is built somewhat differently, at least in the beginning. He was gaining knowledge and achieving his first professional success abroad. Even now, on his official website, and he has such a website, it means the man is not without vanity and public ambitions. So it says there that Dmitriev studied in the USA and worked in the American structures. Many other Putin officials today try to hide any ties with America, but Dmitriev has made this his gimmick. Now, this circumstance makes the Kiev native especially valuable for Putin and his team with Americans. Dmitriev not only saw each other regularly over many years, he worked in structures where not every US citizen is open. Surely, he still has many acquaintances there. And there is plenty of evidence for this, which we will discuss in more detail a little later. One can assume that now the collective Kremlin sees in this native, so one will assume that Putin sees in him an unconditional specialist on Americans, an expert in how they conduct negotiations, and on what principles they make decisions. So let's say that Putin is using him as someone who is experienced or, well, educated in certain fields, and he has the knowing about the structures, right, in businesses in US. How can they be confused and lured to your side? And this is not just an expert, but a person whom Putin trusts very, very well. Let's see how it, sorry for the translation, but I'm trying to make the best out of this information. That, again, take with a grain of salt. Dmitriev returned from overseas in 2000. And then he chose not his historical homeland, Ukraine, but Moscow, where he was invited as a deputy director of IBS firm, one of the first Russian IT companies. In 2002, America returned to his career again. Dmitriev received the post of Director of Investments at Delta Private Equity, a division of the Russia-US fund created under Billy Klein. He was also known as the American Chinese. Authorities recognize it as, sorry, the translation, as an undesirable organization, but when Dmitriev worked in these structures, it was still 2000s, and no one interfered with businesses associated with the United States government from doing businesses in Russia. Dmitriev worked at Delta Private Equity for 5 years and oversaw several major transactions. For example, with his participation, the TV3 television channel was sold to the Profmedia holding associated with the oligarch Vladimir Potanin. And the Russian Delta Bank was bought by the American corporation General Electric for a record price. At that time, 100 million US dollars was a significant figure. And analysts believe that the Americans, with Dmitriev's participation, had clearly overpaid for an asset that subsequently failed to justify itself. All these years, the financier, so Dmitriev, remained a citizen of Ukraine. How and when exactly he acquired Russian citizenship remains unclear. In 2023, Insider publication uncovered another curious detail. Immediately after moving from the United States to Moscow in 2000, Dmitriev bought a used rover and registered it not with a passport, but with an officer's ID card of the armed forces of the Russian Federation under number, here's the number. It is difficult to explain how and why such a document came to be in the hands of a person who did not serve in the Soviet or Russian army and had a foreign citizenship and spent his entire adult life in America at the time. So I don't know if this is legit or not, but he was born in Ukraine, then he went to United States to finish his education there, and then he returned and he had a card of someone who was in the Russian army. All right, let's continue. Our hero used to use the blue passport with the trident, so the Ukrainian passport, in 2007, almost 20 years after leaving his homeland. He finally returned to Ukraine, where he headed the investment fund Icon Private Equity. This structure belonged to Viktor Pinchuk, one of the largest Kiev oligarchs, fifth of the second president of Ukraine, Leonid Kuchma, according to Ukrainian journalist. Dmitriev was engaged in business in his historical homeland only for the first 2 years and then openly carried out soft power in the interests of Russia. Let me remind you that in the late 2000s, Viktor Yushchenko was Ukrainian president, under whom relations between neighboring countries, well as was believed then, fell to lowest possible level. The Kremlin tried with all its might to return Kiev to its former orbit, and Dmitriev, in those years, brought Russian pop stars to Ukraine and regularly appeared on political talk shows and all sorts of public platforms. You can see him right here. Again, I'm telling you guys, I'm not anti-Putin. I'm just presenting you a different side of the story, okay? So we have some more information about who is this person, which he never did either before or after his short return to his homeland. In these speeches, the financier defended the thesis that Yushchenko policies were disastrous and the local economy was not viable without close ties with Moscow. Firstly, no matter what budget was provided to Yushchenko, of course, the party of regions would always criticize him. The same thing if it were only the other way around, but already in 2011, Dmitry returned to work in Russia again. So 2011, he's back in Russia, and since then has not left our country for a long time. While legally, a native of Kiev can still remain a Ukrainian citizen. In any case, there is no data that Dmitriev renounced the Ukrainian citizenship acquired at birth. The fact is that in Ukraine, such a procedure is extremely bureaucratic and involves, among other things, the personal participation of the current president. By the way, Vladimir Zelensky has signed a list of those wishing to renounce Ukrainian citizenship on October 2021. Statistics show that no more than 1% of the audience is ready. Oh, sorry, this is his commercial. Okay. Now his wife, because this is very important, how he got introduced to Putin. So let's look into his wife, beautiful wife, by the way. Let's see right here. Okay. We continue. The question of citizenship is not the only mystery. In the biography of Kirill Dmitriev, one of the most intriguing moments is when and under what circumstances he met Natalia Popova, a native of Diedovsk near Moscow, 6 years younger than himself, and then married her. Most sources have no doubt that this marriage became an additional impetus for the career of a financier. The fact is that Popova is a friend of Yekaterina Tikhonova, the youngest daughter of Putin. Where and when the girls met is also unclear. The most popular version says that they studied together at Moscow State University. In any case, thanks to his wife, Dmitriev met Tikhonova's then husband, Kirill Shamalov, the son of Nikolai Shamalov, owner of Bank Rossiya, and the friend of Vladimir Putin. Okay, so how does this go? So he meets Natalia, right? Popova, who is a close friend of Putin's daughter. Putin's daughter is married to a guy who is a son of another guy who is very important in this, what was the bank? 1 second. Dmitriev, okay, Tikhonova, and husband is Kirill Shamalov, the son of Nikolai Shamalov, owner of Bank Rossiya, and the friend of Vladimir Putin. According to the insider, the new connections helped the Kiev resident first met Sergei Ivanov, a high-ranking official of the early Putin's era, who was at the time even tipped for the presidential post in 2008. In the spring of 2011, Ivanov held the post of Deputy Prime Minister. Just at the time, the Minister of Economic Development, Elvira Neblina, now she's the head of the bank, right, in Russia, was looking for a person who could head the state investment fund with foreign participation. And Ivanov brought Dmitriev to the Kremlin for a viewing, where the young specialist with American education caught the eye of both Vladimir Putin and then the official head of state, Dmitry Medvedev, and other officials. Okay, let me, 1 second here. Let me see. Thank you for your patience, guys, because this is a challenge. Okay, I saw this is about Kirill. I saw that he is sociable, speaks excellent English, has extensive connections, and is a professional in the investment business. As a result, Kirill Dmitriev was approved as director of the Russian Direct Investment Fund, which he continues to manage to this day, and his post remains his main official position. So this is what I was just reading from Wikipedia. The RDIF is far from the most visible structure in the public space of Russia. The average citizen might not even suspect of its existence. The logo of this fund does not flicker in any movie intros, nor on social networks, nor on merchandise for public holidays. However, This does not make this organization less influential. The goal of the RDIF is to attract foreign investment to the Russian economy. To this end, the organization as Soinvesto itself invests money in those projects and companies that seem promising to it. How successful is this structure? Well, if you believe the official statements, then it is quite effective. In January this year, Dmitry was read personally to Putin that the Russian Direct Investment Fund has invested 2.3 trillion rubles over 14 years of operation and has multiplied the invested state money by 5.6 times. But this is very difficult to say how much these figures relate to reality. Sorry. At the very least, it is unclear whether inflation and the discount rate are taken into account in this account. The whole can be considered as a kind of gray or black cash box, which is managed by Putin. But why I'm playing this video for you guys? Because, and let me actually go back to me. And thank you for being with me for so long today. I am aware that this video is coming from someone who is critical of Putin, right? But there are sides of those connections that are important. And I feel like when you look at all of this, I am not trusting at all. I'm not trusting how those business ventures are being made, because at the end of the day, like I'm telling you, it looks like they are creating this project of great new Israel. And they are making business deals and they are settling things, putting things into place. And this has nothing to do, in my opinion, well, maybe very little, with bringing peace. Because there will be more conflicts going on around, okay? They harvest energy from people, they need wars. The only way to really not give in to it is to question everything. And I say it one more time, not to trust governments, because when you trust governments, this is like the first step to be deceived and to be used and to be manipulated. I know this was difficult to watch because I had to read this for you, and I appreciate if you're still here with me. I'm just trying to present to you different sides of people that maybe you will not see from others. I believe that even that Chabad Lubavitch movement, it's not the most influential one. Of course it's not. There are forces above it that are very demonic, very satanic, that are using those things as well. They are the puppets, okay? Like those Chabad Lubavitch people are the puppets to another demonic group that is above them. And looking at all of this, I think it's another form of deception, because how interesting that Zelensky is also part of this Chabad Lubavitch movement, isn't it? The first Jewish Ukrainian president. Still alive, by the way. Yeah, that's interesting to write, that he's still alive. They could remove him long time ago, but they didn't. Because some people say, oh, you know, that's better if he's there. Yeah, it's better when he's there because he has to complete this project. Thank you for watching today. I appreciate it, guys. Draining, I know it's draining, but trust me, it's draining for me too. So if you hit the thumbs up and subscribe, it will mean a lot. I will attach the link down below in the description box. Watch this video yourself if you have time and full length, and look into this guy. The guy who came out of nowhere, and now it's sitting at the negotiating tables, making those decisions, educated in Harvard, Yeah. Like some people will say, oh no, he just went there to find out what's really, no. There is more to it. And I'm sure we're gonna get to that sooner or later, because the truth always comes up, always, sooner or later. If you choose to support my work, the best way is to become my Patreon member or donate on PayPal. And with this being said, lots of love. And remember, we are the leading edge and we are saving humanity. Let me know what you think about Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, Kirill Dmitriev, and so-called others, and how much peace they really are interested in. Or is it peace in certain areas and money in other areas? And I see you in another video. Bye, everyone.